won't be able to see you. All right, so let's take a look at this really quick, just so you know what you're doing, because it is different. I know you're very, very sad because of many things, but okay. So number one, we're going to attend our Google Hangout, and that's where I'm going to teach you a really difficult lesson. This lesson every year, kids have trouble wrapping their heads around because there's like all letters and hardly any numbers. And you're like, math class, there should be more numbers than this. But trust me, it is math related, and you have to know this because you can apply this to so many different things once you actually, specialize in something like engineering or medicine or architecture or, anything like that. Okay, so after you do that, please make sure that you attend or you submit attendance. And then today, when you go off by yourself, you are going to be watching the 1.4 video. Well, where are you getting this video from? Because it's not an Edgenuity. It's right here. So click the link and then it's a video. Okay, let me show you really quick the video so you can see. Yes. Here's the video. Okay. So the video is of Miss Peterson. She also teaches algebra at Hudson Bend. Her teaching you this, okay? So just follow along. You'll notice that the video is only 8 minutes long, so it's not very long. So guys, we really need you to pay attention and try to understand because today is a doozy, okay? After you watch the video and take notes, wait, where am I getting the notes from? Right here. Here's a copy of the notes. Look here, it says you do not need to submit your notes. So no, there's nothing to submit. Guys, for those of you who normally use Kami, I would suggest that Kami is not done today. Okay, it's going to be really hard to write all of this stuff right here. Like, how can you write all of this when it's like things are on top of each other and over each other and you're crossing things out, right? It's going to be really hard to write like that on Kami. So I would just copy the problem and then do it on a separate sheet of paper, like notebook paper or something. Okay. And that'll probably just save you more time and less stress. Or you can print out this paper right here and then take it on that paper. That's fine. But remember, there is nothing for you to turn in or submit today. I am going to trust all of you wonderful algebra babies that you will watch the 8 minutes and truly try to understand. Okay, guys, today, like I said, is going to be difficult. Okay, but this is what algebra looks like. So after today, if you're just like, I have no idea, I am lost, I think you really need to have an honest conversation with yourself, with your parents, with me, and either form a plan on how we can get you back on track and what you need to do this year, because you might have to work really hard, or maybe think, okay, maybe my brain is just not ready for algebra yet, and that's totally okay. Okay, so that's what we're doing. When we get off, and we are going to spend more than 20 minutes together today because it's going to be a hard lesson today. So I really want to make sure we get it. Watch the video, take the notes, try to understand. It's 8 minutes total. Okay, so on top of your paper, please write solving literal equations. So solving literal equations. Darn it, my thing is, I think it's upside down, but let me see. So solving. Yeah, it's upside down. Yeah. Let me just readjust there we go. Solving literal equations. Okay, so since I am recording you guys today, or just recording me teaching for all the kids who need to rewatch this again, I can't see you guys if you're typing something. So if you have a question, you need to just unmute and shout it out. Because if you don't, then I'm never going to know that you had a question to begin with. Okay? All right. So solving literal equations. I'm just going to start with the basics. Okay? I'm going to start really easy, something that you already know, and then go from there. Okay? So please write down this problem. Let's say I just have like 10 equals 2x plus, I don't know, 4. 10 equals 2x plus 4. You should know how to do this problem with no issues. So let's just remind ourselves, okay, let's say that I want to solve for x. If I want to solve for x, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move everything that's on the same side as x. So move the 2, move the 4, but there is a specific order. So does anyone remember, and just shout it out, which number do I have to move first? Thank you to whoever said that. You have to move the 4 first. The reason why you move the 4 first is because the rule, when you have a two-step equation, is you always move the number that's not connected to the x, but on the same side. So this is not connected to the x, but it's on the same side. So you're going to minus 4 on both sides. And then you would do 10 minus 4. So that's how you get whatever answer, whatever this equals, you just write it down, and then you drop down what you have left over. Okay, so I still want to solve for the x. So now hopefully you realize that I have to move the 2, and since it's 2 times x, right, I divide by 2. So then over here is where you put your solution, whatever that equals, and then that's how you solve for x. That's what we've been doing for the past 2 years in math class. Now I'm going to make it more complicated. Literal means it's mostly all letters and hardly any numbers. So let me make it a little bit more complicated, okay? What if I have this? Y equals 2x plus w. So do you see how I have a lot of letters now? Okay, so here's my goal. I still want to solve for x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my line to separate my problem. Do you see how just like this one, if I want to solve for x, I have to move the 2 and the w, right? I still have to move these two things. And do you see how just like this one, I have to move the w first because it's farthest away from my x, right? It's not connected. Okay, how do I move this w? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Okay, subtract because it's plus. Opposite of plus is minus. So I'm going to minus w on both sides. So this, I can't do y minus w. Like, I don't know what that equals. So you would just write my answer for that is just y minus w because you can't simplify it. And that equals 2x. So just like this step now, it's 2 times x. So I can divide by 2. And remember, everything gets divided by 2. So my final answer is going to be y minus w all over 2 because all of this side is being divided by 2. So all over 2, and that equals x. So this is what your answers are going to look like today. They're not going to be like x equals 4, x equals 2, x equals 9. It's going to be like x equals and then this big mass of numbers and letters. Okay. So I hope that kind of makes sense because we're going to move on now. Okay. So let's try another example. Let's say I have y equals mx plus b. Oh, look, no numbers, all letters. Y equals mx plus b. And let's say I want to solve for the b. Okay, I want to keep the b. I want my answer to be b equals something. So if it confuses you, maybe pretend that this m and the x that you're going to have to move to the other side are numbers. So does anyone think they know, how do I move this? Do I move them together, separate? What do you think? Yes, someone said move them together. The reason why you move them together is because they're connected by a time. So you are going to move the m and the x together. But how? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Subtract. I think the biggest mistake, the biggest thing that you guys are going to think is you're going to have to divide them. And that's not the case. Because look, if you divide it, the same thing divided by the same thing, like 10 divided by 10 is 1. So m divided by m is 1. I don't want 1 on this side. I want it to completely disappear. M minus m is nothing. So that's why I have to subtract it. Whenever you move a group of something, you subtract it. So I have y minus mx, because I can't combine them. I write the y first because it's on top. I write the mx on second because it was on the bottom, and that equals b. And that would be my answer. Okay. Yes. All right. So well, no, it's as solved as it will be. So that's the thing. I know it's not solved. Your answer isn't like a number, but that's the point. You're solving literally for this letter, even though you have a bunch of letters here. Okay. Let's try another one. Let's say I have, no, do you see how I boxed in the B? So whenever, Yeah, so for this problem, we're solving for B. Every question that you get, it will specifically say solve for B, solve for Z, solve for W. So you will know which one you have to solve for, and it will not be X for every single problem. It'll be random letters, and they will tell you which ones to solve for. Okay, let's try this one. P equals IRT. And for this one, I want you to solve for T. Okay, so I see that if I want to keep the T, I need to move the I and the R. Does anyone know? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? You divide. The reason why you divide is because it's I times R times T. It's all times. Okay, so opposite of times is divide. So I have to divide by I. I also have to divide by R. Like, so for this problem, there was a specific order. I do the 4 first, and then I do the 2. For this one, is there a specific order? Do I have to do one letter first and then the other? Yeah. Well, because there's a plus B at the end. This one was separated by a plus. Do you see how there's all times is here? So that's why you don't subtract IR. So for this one, because you're doing the same thing, you're dividing and dividing, which is the same rule, I guess, or the same thing you have to do, the same step, you can just do it together. You don't have to divide one first and then divide the next one second. Just do it together. Divide IR. So I divided by I is 1. R divided by R is 1. 1T is just T. That's how you know that you would have to divide here. So your final answer is P over IR equals T. Okay. Let me just show you this really quick. You don't have to write it down because I'm going to go over this one really fast. What if I have like A equals B times C times D times E, and I just have to solve for C? So I know that for this one, I need to divide by B, divide by D, divide by E. Even though these three are not connected because there's a C separating it, that's okay. I can just divide by B, D, E, right? Do it all at the same time, even though there's a C in between there. That's okay. So my final answer would just be A over B, D, E equals C. So it is okay if they're like, separated by the thing, as long as there's times all between it, you can just do it all at once. Okay. I hope I haven't lost you yet because I'm going to get even more difficult now. Okay. Let's say I have this 2x minus 3y equals 8. And this time I want to solve for the y. So if I want to solve for y, I know that I have to move the 2 and the x and the 3. Does anyone know which one do I do first? Yeah, I'm still moving the 2x. Remember, just like a normal equation, move the thing that's farthest away because they're not connected. I can't just divide, 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 right? They're not connected because there's a minus in between. So I'm going to move the 2x because it's the farthest away. What do you think? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Subtract. Very good. So you're going to subtract because guess what? 2x minus 2x is nothing. It's 0. So it disappears. So left over, I have negative 3y equals. So here's my question. 8 minus 2x, is that 6x or is that 8 minus 2x? Yeah, please don't combine them to be 6x because you can't combine this. This doesn't have an x at the end. So you have to write it exactly as it is. You can't combine it. Okay, hopefully at this point you'll realize that you have to divide by negative 3. So all of it is divided by negative 3, not just part of it. So when you write your answer, 8 minus 2x is on top. All of it is divided by negative 3. So you have to draw this long bar and then negative 3, and that's your answer. Okay, that's our 20 minutes, but I'm going to go over the 20 minutes because your independent time is only 8 minutes long. Okay, and I want to make sure we get this. So I feel like the more we do together, the easier it is for you to do it by yourself. And it's only 8 minutes. So maybe 15 minutes max for you guys to learn. Okay, let's try another one. A equals 4r squared. Oh my gosh, there's an r squared in there. Actually, let's make it even harder. H. Okay, this time let's solve for the r squared. Okay, can anyone tell me what's the first thing I do? What do I have to do? Close, but no, not subtract h. Closer, but I don't just divide h. Yeah, divide 4h, because do you see how they're all connected by a times? So I know I would have to move the 4 by dividing. I know I would have to move the h by dividing. And since it's literally the same thing, divide, divide, I can just do it together. So that cancels to 1, that cancels to 1. So I'm dividing by 4h. So final answer is a over 4h equals r squared. That's okay that there's a squared there. It said that we should solve for r squared. So as long as I have that at the end, then I'm good. Okay. Solving for r is actually not that much harder. If you wanted to solve for r, then you would just square root and then square root. So your final answer would be r equals square root of a over 4h if you wanted to solve for r. But that's just not what the question was asking. But yeah, you're right. Okay, let's see if you can do one by yourself, okay? I'm going to give you 20 seconds just to try. And if you get it wrong, that's okay. 7x minus y equals 14. And I want to solve for x. 7x minus y equals 14. Does anyone think they have the answer? And it's okay if you get it wrong. It's our first time doing this. If you got 14 plus y all over 7, perfect. You're great. And let me show you why. Okay, so I want to solve for x. So I know I need to move the 7 and the y. Well, what's farthest away? The y. So I need to add y to both sides. So I end up having 7x equals 14 plus y. Well, now what do? I want to get rid of the 7. So divide both sides by 7. That's why all of it is divided by the 7. So that would be my answer. If you got that right, give yourself an air high five to yourself, or maybe just clap your two hands together, and that's kind of like you're high fiving yourself. I don't even know. But that's tricky. Okay, so if you can get it, good. If you can't get it, we're gonna do this one more time tomorrow, and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense with more practice. Okay. Let's try another one by yourself before I get to even more complicated things. Let's say I have SA equals 2 pi RH plus 2 pi Z. So I kind of changed so this was a surface area formula, but I changed the last letter just because I wanted to make it different. Solve for Z. Does anyone think they have it? If you have this one, I would be very, very impressed. I know. Does anyone? Okay, what do you think it is? Yay! Good job. Whoever said that, because I don't even know, because I can't see the screen right now. If you got this huge mass, good job. Seriously. Okay, so let's talk about this. If you want to keep Z, you know you have to leave or move all this stuff, right? Well, isn't this stuff farthest away from your Z? And isn't it all connected? So if it's all connected, you can just subtract it out. 2 pi RH minus 2 pi RH is 0. That's why you're subtracting the whole thing, not dividing, because dividing would give you 1. So left over then, you have SA minus 2 pi RH, because I can't combine them, equals 2 pi Z. Well, look at how 2 and pi and z are connected, times and times. So you have to divide by 2, divide by pi. Since it's the same thing, divide and divide, you can just divide it together, and that's how you get that as your answer. Okay? All right. If you got that, seriously, good job. Okay, I think you'll be fine. But if you didn't get that, definitely really try. We're going to try again tomorrow. Okay, so don't lose hope. Okay, but we're going to try again tomorrow. And tomorrow, hopefully, you'll get a little bit better at it. Okay, let's try something completely different. A equals x plus y over 2. Okay, let's say for this one, I want to solve for y. So I know I have to move the x, and I know I have to move the 2. Does anyone know which one I have to do first? The 2. Okay, let me tell you why you have to do the 2. Because do you see how all of this is, like the x and the y are basically covered by this whole division sign. Okay, the 2 is covering all of this stuff on top. I can't access the x or the y or move anything around until I get rid of that symbol. And so the only way I can get rid of this huge divide sign is by multiplying it by 2. Because then that would get rid of it, and that would basically like release the x and the y. Release the Kraken. Okay, so 2 times a is just 2a equals x plus y. Hopefully you know what to do at this point. You're just subtracting x. So your final answer is 2a minus x equals y. Hopefully, once you learn this rule that if ever you have a big division bar, you have to do the bottom. You have to do the bottom first. You don't have a choice. Then the rest of the math isn't so bad. Okay, 2 more examples. And then I'll show you how you can double check your answers. Okay, so let's say I have R equals E over I. And this time, I want to solve for I. Okay, this is a trick question. I'll let you write this down first, and then I'll tell you why it's a trick question. R equals E over I, and you want to save the I or solve for the I. Okay, this is why this is a trick question. Normally, whatever letter that we solve for, that's the letter that stays on this side and everything else moves, right? So normally E would have to move. Like for this one, if Z is what we want to keep, then all the stuff moves to the other side. Okay, but we just learned a rule that if something is at the bottom, you have to multiply it out first. So this time, this thing is at the bottom. This is what we want to solve for. So does anyone think they know how or what's my first step? You have to multiply by I. I know that seems counterintuitive. Like, why does that make sense? I'm trying to keep the I there and move the E. You can't do anything to this problem, guys, until you release whatever's on the bottom. So I is on the bottom, even though it's a thing you want to keep, too bad. You got to multiply it. There's no other choice, okay? Okay, yeah. So you have R times I equals E. So now to get I by itself, you divide by R. So you have I equals E over R. So you would think, oh, this is easy. Just like divide by E, move the E over and you're done. No, no, no. You had to take like 2 extra steps. Because remember, whenever there's something on the bottom, you have to multiply it out. You don't have a choice. Even if it's the thing that you're solving for, you don't have a choice. You have to multiply it by this, whatever's on the bottom. Okay, so same thing kind of goes with this then. This is the last example. Then I'm going to show you how to double check your answers. A equals 2 parentheses L plus W. Okay, and let's say that I want to solve for the W. So normally, last week I was like, hey guys, remember, whenever you see a parentheses, you have to multiply and you have to distribute. You could do that here, but you're going to give yourself like 3 more steps to have to solve this. Okay, here's a trick. Do you see how it's Do you see how this 2 is keeping the L and the W in the parentheses? So like if I didn't have the 2, then wouldn't it just be L plus W? Like it wouldn't be there, right? So I want to get rid of the 2. Yeah, so you have to divide by 2, because if you divide by 2, that basically releases the rest of the problem so that it can open up to just be L plus W. So now I want to solve for W. Now what do I do, guys? Not multiply by 2 because I want to solve for W. Minus L. Okay, so here is how you write the answer. A over 2, because it was on top, and then minus L off to the side, because you're subtracting L at the very end. Okay, a lot of kids want to do this, A minus L all over 2, and that is wrong. Okay, don't do it this way, because you're not subtracting L after or before you divide it by 2. You divided by the 2 first, then you subtracted that with L. So don't get it confused with this. That would be the wrong way to write it. The L does not belong on top of the 2. Okay. Okay. So let me show you how you can double check your answer, because remember how like back then when you were like, oh, x plus 3 equals 10, minus 3 minus 3, x equals 7. Double check your answer. Oh, 7 plus 3 equals 10. And that's how you know you got the right answer. Don't you wish that math was like that easy now? But no, it's not. So let me tell you how you can double check your answer. Let's just go over something like this one. Okay, so I said my question was A equals 2 parentheses L plus W. I said the answer was A over 2 minus L equals W. How can I check that I actually got this answer right? What I can do is assign random numbers for my letters to make it work out in the problem, and then I can put those numbers in here and it should still work out. So, for example, I'm not going to use really hard numbers. I'm going to use numbers like 2, 3, 4. They're positives. They're small just to make my life easier. Okay. And I don't want to use 1 because multiplying something by 1 is the same number. So that screws up sometimes. And then I don't want to use 0 because multiplying by 0 gets you 0. So that screws up my issue sometimes too. So start with like 2. Use numbers like 2 and 3 and 4. Now, here's the thing. Would it make sense? So I want to figure out what is A, what is L, what is W. Would it make sense for me to assign a number for A to be like 2? No. Because if I said that my answer is 2, I got to somehow find 2 numbers, add them together, multiply by 2 to have it equal whatever number I assigned. That's just a lot of work. Wouldn't it be easier to just say, oh, let's make L 2 and W 3 so I can easily do this problem to see what A is? So like L is 2, W is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10. So do you see how all of these numbers work out in this problem? Instead of me trying to make up a random number for A and having it be forced to work out here, I could kind of go backwards and just find an easy number. Okay, so 2 times 2 plus 3 is 5 is 10. That's how I know it works out. So let's plug it in here. A is 10 divided by 2 minus L, we said was 2. It should equal W, which we said was 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. So yes, do you see how these numbers that worked for this also work for this? So that's how I can double check my answer. I know that took me like 3 minutes to do. And normally checking your answer takes you like 30 seconds. But I mean, I'm not saying check your answer for every single problem, but I am saying maybe just check your answer for tests and quizzes just so you know that you have it right. Okay, so that's it for today. I really want to make sure that you understand this. So if you still have questions, hang back and I can stay with you and maybe try to explain. But guys, again, this is what algebra is like. It's going to be this hard, if not harder. Okay, so I really want you to be mentally and emotionally prepared what you're getting into, because you are going into a high school class, which you've never been in before. Okay, so I just need you to be prepared for that. And it's okay if you're not ready. There's no shame in that. Okay,